Hello everybody, this is Jose Gagnon, the Random Guy 75, and today I'm going to be making a video talking about how people of any age are able to enjoy the first 7 seasons of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, or Thomas the Train for short. So in this video I will be talking a little bit about the narrators of the show, showing some pictures of the Thomas movie, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, or Thomas and the Magic Railroad I mean, and some clips from the show. So without further ado, let us begin. Now the show had narrators for the US and UK versions. So for the US in the first season, first season all the way to the 4th season, the US narrator was a comedian known as George Carlin. And then once he decided to stop narrating after those 4 seasons, they ended up getting Alec Baldwin to be the narrator for the 5th and 6th season. And in the UK version, Ringo Starr was the narrator of the UK version of the show for the first 2 seasons. And then starting in the 3rd season and continuing for a bunch of years, they changed it to a man known as Michael Angelis, who narrated the show for a bunch of years. And then finally in the US version of the 7th season, after Alec Baldwin got sick of narrating it for the 5th and 6th season, in the 7th they got a guy known as Michael Brandon. So those were all the names of the narrators in the US and UK version of the show. Now, as you can see on my laptop, I will be showing off some pictures and a clip of the Thomas the Train movie, Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Now, the plot of the movie for Thomas and the Magic Railroad is about this very special magic engine known as Lady, who is owned by this guy, whose name is Burnett Stone, played by Peter Fonda. And an evil Diesel known as Diesel 10 wants to come and destroy her and get rid of all the engines on Sodor. But when Alec Baldwin, who plays Mr. Conductor in the movie, comes on the island of Sodor, and the trains all explain to him what is going on, he, along with Thomas and his friends, decide to go and try stop Diesel 10 from destroying the magic engine. Just like a couple little pictures from the movie. And there you can see Thomas with Diesel 10 along with Alec Baldwin, Peter Fonda, and that little girl is Mara Wilson, who is Burnett Stone's granddaughter in the movie. And they named her Lily. So now I'll be showing a little clip from the movie, one of my favorite clips of all time. Just gotta wait for it to load. Well, while we're waiting for this to load, I might as well talk about the characters in the show. So in the show, it basically has a bunch of different characters. Some of them are trains, some of them are road vehicles. and a bunch of other like things. Okay, it loaded up. Well, okay, I'll still talk about the characters because it's still. So, I made a list here of all the characters in the show. So, in the very first season, the characters are Thomas, Edward, Henry, Gordon, James, Percy, Toby, Bertie the bus, and Terrence the tractor.
Hey, just watch what happens to that blue puffball.
Oh, these characters are also in the Thomas movie. Their names are Splatter and Dodge. They're Diesel 10's henchmen who try to help him out.
Bye-bye, chaps. Hello. The boss dumped sneezing powder everywhere. Let's start laughing now. Oh, sorry, Fruits. Bit of a dust-up. Love to stay and clean up. Got to go. Bye now. Did you mean to look like that? No. Neither did I. This must be Diesel's doing. Choo!
Dear Mr. Conductor, where were you? My wife said she couldn't miss our little holiday. We'll telephone to make sure. Signed, Sir Topham Hatt.
I also forgot to mention Sir Topham Hatt, who is also the boss of all the trains in the show. But he wasn't in the movie at all because he was basically on vacation when this movie was going on. I just like how Alec Baldwin just goes to try on Sir Topham Hatt's top hat while he's not around. Oh, it's so funny.
Oh, good afternoon, sir.
A real honor, sir. Like my family before me. And how is the lady hat? Yes. Watch out for Diesel, definitely. Keep an eye on Henry's health, certainly. Yes, sir, the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. I mean, I will be responsible, reliable, really useful. Yes, sir. We will all get a good night's sleep. Looking forward to a hard day tomorrow. Goodbye, sir.
So that was basically that clip. Like I said, I mostly just liked it because of the whole sneezing powder thing. And so yeah, so continuing on with the characters. So those were these are the big main characters that they talk about, you know, in the first season. And then in the second season, they ended up adding some more characters known as Trevor the Traction Engine, Boko the Diesel, Bill and Ben the Tank Engine Twins, Donald and Douglas the Scottish Twins, Duck the Great Western Engine, Diesel the Evil Engine, Harold the Helicopter, which you just saw in the scene I just put up, Oliver the Great Western Engine, this is in Season 3, Toad the Brake Van, Mavis the Quarry Diesel, Bulgy the Double-Decker Bus. Then in Season 4, it introduced a bunch of really super small engines known as the narrow gauge engines, which are basically the main focus of the fourth season. So the characters in that are Duke, Sir Handel, Peter Sam. Oh, and also I also put Slash Falcon and Slash Stewart because in the very first couple episodes, Sir Handel and Peter Sam were known as Falcon and Stewart, and then they ended up getting their names changed when they go to the Skarloey Railway. And then there's Scarloey, Rheneas, Duncan, Rusty the Diesel, Caroline the car, Stepney the Bluebell engine, and George the steamroller. And then in the 5th season, some new characters that were added were Cranky the crane, Derek the diesel, Old slow coach, Bertram the narrow gauge old warrior engine, Sir Topham Hatt's mom. And then in season 6, there's Salty the dockyard diesel, Harvey the crane engine, Elizabeth the lorry, Jack the front loader, and the Soda construction crew, who are owned by this lady named Miss Jenny. And then finally in the 7th season, the new characters that were added were Fergus the railway traction engine, Murdoch the quiet engine, because he just enjoys peace and quiet, so that's why they call him that, Emily the green Stirling engine, Spencer, who is owned by the Duke and Duchess of Sodor, and Arthur the red engine, or red LMS engine. Okay, so now that we got all that out of the way, I'll be showing off some clips. And this video will probably either be like a 2-parter or a 3-parter, depending, on all the clips that I show. So here's a clip from the very first episode, known as Thomas and Gordon, or Thomas Gets Tricked. And this is narrated by George Carlin. So the clips that I'll be showing are going to be narrated by George Carlin and that guy, Michael Angelis, who actually passed away last month. So rest in peace, Mr. Angelis. You are an amazing guy, for narrating the Thomas the Train show. You did a great job. I'm very glad that you did it. So here we go.
Thomas is a tank engine who lives at a big station on the island of Sodor. He's a cheeky little engine with 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. He's a fussy little engine too, always pulling coaches about, ready for the big engines to take on long journeys. And when trains come in, he pulls the empty coaches away so that the big engines can go and rest. Thomas thinks no engine works as hard as he does. He loves playing tricks on them, including Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine of all. Thomas likes to tease Gordon with his whistle. "Wake up, lazy bones. Why don't you work hard like me?"
So here's another clip from Thomas and the Breakdown Train, or Thomas and the Thomas Saves the Day.
Like engines and coaches and freight cars. One day, Thomas was in the
This
yard.
is basically
Suddenly, he
how
heard an
Thomas
engine
ends
whistling.
up getting his
"Help,
branch
help!"
line.
A freight train came rushing through much too fast. The engine was James, and he was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire. "They're pushing me! They're pushing me!" he panted. On, laughed the freight cars, still whistling, "Help! Help!" Poor James disappeared. "I'd like to teach those freight cars a lesson," said Thomas the tank engine. Soon came the alarm. "James is off the line! The breakdown train! Quickly!" Thomas was coupled on, and off they went. Thomas worked his hardest. "Hurry, hurry, hurry," he puffed. He wasn't pretending to be like Gordon. He really meant it. "Bother those freight cars and their tricks. I hope poor James isn't hurt." James's driver and firemen were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It was those silly freight cars and your old wooden brakes that caused the accident." Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside. Then he pulled away the unhurt freight cars. "Oh dear, they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas. was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all afternoon. "This'll teach you a lesson, this'll teach you a lesson," he told the freight cars. And they answered, "Yes, it will, yes, it will." They left the broken cars, then with 2 cranes they put James back on the rails.
Now here we got another clip from Thomas Goes
When Thomas
Fishing
puffed along his branch
when
line,
he's
he always
exploring
looked
his
forward
branch
to something
line.
special. The sight of the river. As he rumbled over the bridge, he would see people fishing. Thomas often wanted to stay and watch, but his driver said no. What would Sir Topham Hatt say if we were late? Every time he met another engine, he would say, "I want to fish." But they all had the same answer. "Engines don't go fishing." Silly stick in the muds, thought Thomas. One day, he stopped as usual to take in water at the station by the river. "Out of order." "Bother," said Thomas. "I'm thirsty." "Never mind," said his driver. "We'll get some water from the river." They found a bucket and some rope and went to the bridge. Then the driver let the bucket down to the water. The bucket was old and had 5 holes, so they had to fill it, pull it up, and empty it into Thomas's tank as quickly as they could, several times over. They finished at last. That's good, puffed Thomas, and Annie and Clarabelle ran happily behind. Suddenly, Thomas began to feel a pain in his boiler. Steam began to hiss from his safety valve in an alarming way. "There's too much steam," said his driver. "Oh dear," groaned Thomas. "I'm going to burst! I'm going to burst!" They damped down his fire and struggled on.
So now I'll be continuing the video in part 2.
"I've got such a pain," Thomas hissed.